I'm here to not talk about conventional thinking or conventional wisdom, but it is very conventional that we in the present stand on the shoulders of giants. And I can tell you, having been here all day, those who came before me were certainly giants. As a physician, I've been trained that anything viral was bad, and potentially very bad. So think Ebola, HIV. We here in this room, just not too distant past, suffered through H1N1, the swine flu pandemic. A pandemic is a global epidemic. And so the notion of a viral epidemic is, to me, in my conventional medical thinking, a very scary thing. By the way, the H1N1 killed thousands of people. But what you may know is that the seasonal flu virus kills thousands of people every year. But what's scary is that once every so often, as it happened in 1918, a viral pandemic causes great destruction. The Spanish flu of 1918, coming at the end of World War I, infected nearly 30% of the entire world's population. 500 million people, and by some estimates, killed 50 million people. Now, this was a world that, to use Tom Friedman's lingo, was much rounder, much larger than today's world. We did not have jet travel around the world, so the fact that over the course of about 18 months, 50 million people died as it spread around the globe is scary. So please forgive me if my conventional medical training tells me that viral epidemics are a bad thing. But what I'm here to tell you is that now I've learned, and I am humbled, that not everything viral is bad. And as this event is focused on everything begins with an idea, let us remember this notion of linear growth. Linear growth, like the yellow brick road, as it meanders, means that with a constant slope or slightly varying slope, sales, an idea's acceptance will grow slowly over time, this quarter, next year. Under this model of conventional thinking, things will get bigger, just wait, it'll be okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that the notion of linear growth and linear thinking are behind us. As a matter of fact, what we have today is that ideas can spread around the globe at virtually the speed of light. And that's a concept that I, for one, did not appreciate till just a very little time ago. Today we live in the era of several of my predecessor speakers have talked about, of social networks. And, I know social networks. Why? Because I have a 25-year-old, a 21-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And my 25-year-old went to Harvard, and she came home her freshman year and said, and was on her laptop, and I said, what is that? That's one of your high school friends. She says, oh, Dad, that's the Facebook. So this was the year, that's sophomore, that's the Facebook. And I went with the Facebook, it was Harvard pictures, my friend Bill Gates and I, and he said, no, Dad, this is some nerdy sophomore put the Facebook on the internet. I met him at a party, he's a real nerd. Okay, we all know that he is a phenomenally smart and successful nerd. Well, one of the chroniclers of our time is Malcolm Gladwell. I've read all his books. And last week on CNN, he said that social media is really not such a big deal yet. Well, duh, he hasn't written a book about it. All right. And when he writes that book, I will read a review on a social media site. I will click on a link. I will buy that book. I will read it. I will upload my review back to the social media site, and I'll do it all in a blink on my iPad. So despite Gladwell's opinion, the new era of social media, networks and social media virality has made the world much smaller, much flatter, and much less patient. The internet has shrunk our globe, again, as my immediate predecessor said, much faster and much more than even the invention of the jet plane. And so now we all live, and I'm sorry, but Neo's not up there, in the matrix of the global social network. And we are connected. I mean, with Facebook having 500 million users, Twitter having 200 million users, and we know the power of these networks as we've seen revolution. We saw Mr. Shadid up here talking about revolution in a part of the world that none of us predicted revolution, occurring, facilitated by Facebook, by Twitter. These are powerful tools. So, how did a 56-year-old physician inventor get involved in social media? Well, one thing I can tell you, it wasn't via a movie. Okay? Let me tell you the story of how I, in the last few months, initiated my own viral pandemic. And my story begins with an idea I had about 15 years ago to take an electrocardiogram and put it in the pocket of every physician and every patient and make that vital, life-saving information available anywhere, anytime. That was my idea, that was my dream. And I will tell you that 15 years ago, the technology did not exist to make that happen. As a matter of fact, here's a picture of the original electrocardiograph machine from Germany. And what I can tell you is, in just over 100 years, we've been able to shrink that device to where today's technology enables me literally to make it the size of a credit card. That thick, that size. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, as my good friends at Apple tell me, we've changed everything. And in 2007, Apple introduced the original iPhone, and I bet I could, how many people in this room have an iPhone? Raise your hand. See? Yes. I would tell you that in 2010, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone 4, and as he said, that changed everything again. Well, I'm a believer. I am an absolute believer, and I will tell you that in 2009, I took an iPhone 3GS, I took an off-the-shelf battery case, and with my two partners, Bruce and Kim in Australia, we put together our first prototype iPhone ECG. It didn't work very well, but it was a concept. What I learned is what I've come to believe, that unfortunately, and I'm sorry, maybe you are different, most people cannot appreciate a concept until it is finished. They're inoculated against idea epidemics by conventional thinking. And you're going to find out that I keep using these medical analogies. Just get over it, okay? Just get over it. I'm a doctor. I know better. You know, Bill Murray, I love that line, stand back, man, I'm a doctor. I want to tell you about conventional thinking because the great story that I rely on now to buttress me up is from last February. 2 weeks before the introduction of the original iPad, Apple brought in the pundits, and Steve Jobs showed off his cool tablet. And one of the major experts went up to Steve and said, Steve, tablets have been around a long time, dude. They're just not that good. What focus group research do you have to support that this is going to work? And Steve Jobs looked at him, I'm sure, turtleneck, jeans, incredibly skinny, and said, it's not the responsibility of the consumer to know what's over the horizon. It's not their responsibility to know what they're going to want. That's Apple's responsibility. They did know focus groups. They did know market research at Apple. That's their mantra. Tablets had failed for 15 years. We all know how the iPad turned out. How many people have iPads? Thank you very much. So the notion of an unappreciative world did not stop me. Again, I was buttressed by my friend Steve Jobs. And so in 2010, I took my idea of an iPhone ECG and I went around. I mean, I was the chief scientist of GE Cardiology. I'd sold them a company. I went to GE and they said, Dave, oh, well, that's pretty cool. But we did focus groups. They did, they said that. We did focus groups and they don't want this, you know. I went, okay, I don't have focus group data. You got focus group data. And, you know, all I had was the notion that this was a good idea. And that notion was shared by my two partners, thank you, Skype, with whom I converse every day on the other side of the world. They live in a very tough world, and like their brethren from Australia, they're stubborn. Thank the Lord for stubbornness. And they were infected because they too believed that this was a great idea. So I'm not an expert on social media. I mean, my 11-year-old knows way more than I do about Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. But what I will tell you is what's happened to me in the last 3 months stands as an example that if you have an idea that is infective, then it can turn overnight into a global pandemic. I received new prototypes from my partners in Shenzhen, China. Again, we're a global operation of 4 people. On December 14th, 2010. That happens to be my birthday. They turned out to be my favorite present, by the way. And so what I did is I went to my office on December 30th at 11 o'clock, and after coaching the night before by my 11-year-old, who's been making and uploading YouTube videos on modifying Nerf guns for over 2 years, you just wait to hear what he told me later. I made a 4-minute video. There were no retakes, there was no script, used a little webcam, and I hit upload. What I had no idea is that when I hit upload, I had just initiated a global idea pandemic. Now this video was meant for 3 companies because next week was the Consumer Electronics Show. And those 3 companies were not coming, and so I wanted to let them know about this idea I had and these prototypes I had. So I made a video, I hit upload, and I went home to prepare for going out on a New Year's Eve date with my wife of 26 years. Okay, that was great. I will tell you, when I hit upload, I changed my life. Fairly powerful notion. So now comes the part that's everybody, Ken Stoner says, Dave, you gotta do this. So I gotta do a demo. You know, the interesting thing about my technology is that it's a little itty bitty teeny weeny thing, weighs about as much as 4 cigarettes. Here's the magnificent iPhone 4, and we talk about you snap it on, you turn it on, and then it just works. And there is my electrocardiogram coming from my hands, being analyzed in real time, and thank you, sir, being stored on the web in the cloud. Again, I'm an old guy. What I didn't understand is I snapped it on, I turned it on. What I didn't realize is I just got it on. So I posted the video, and I put a link. You know, I'm kind of social. I had 600 connections on LinkedIn. That's quite a few. I'd been working on that for several years. You know, I had about 30 Twitter followers, and I had about 100 friends on Facebook. I got on Facebook to follow my kids in college, okay? And I can tell you that my social connections on all 3 of those networks are what I would call, conservatively, considerably larger today than they were 3 months ago. I did not suspect when I made this that I had initiated that global infection because I was, like the first virus in an epidemic, like that idea, I was patient 0. I was the first infected. So by 6 p.m. that Thursday evening, I started getting emails. Well, I'm not very smart. I put my email address at the end of the video. Yeah, of course. I mean, why wouldn't I do that? I only expected 3 people to see the video, and they already had my email address. So why would I worry? I was wrong. By 10 o'clock that night, I had 25,000 views. By Sunday, I had 100,000 views. And today, I have well over 200,000 views. But that's just the beginning. Because by Monday morning, I had every media outlet in our local Oklahoma City area calling me. The Oklahoman, our newspaper, did a front page story on me on Tuesday. Our CBS and ABC affiliates did video stories for Tuesday evening local news. And the next morning, Wednesday morning, I was heading to CES. Well, at midnight, Tuesday night, my wife and I were awakened by the producer of Good Morning America, who wanted me to then go to CES and be on. I realized, honey, something's going on. Well, Wednesday came, I went to CES, and all hell broke loose. In addition to Good Morning America, Fox and Friends asked me to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Thursday morning so I could be on the CES broadcast at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Fox and Friends. CNN called me. What I did not know is that the local TV stories had been syndicated, and they were rebroadcast literally all over the country on radio and TV, and that both Fox and CNN had replayed my YouTube video all day Wednesday. I had the unofficial hit of CES, unplanned, unpredicted. That Sunday, my partners in Australia put up a quick website. By Wednesday, we had 10,000 registrations. We were overwhelmed. So what I will tell you is I kept getting more and more calls. I kept getting more and more emails. I kept getting more and more interview requests from small bloggers to CBS Radio. The good news is that I was totally unprepared. Because if I was prepared, I would have been scared. So the epidemic was in full swing. And I figured this epidemic, this is the United States. While I was at CES on Thursday, I was hunted down by no less than 10 companies from Israel, Japan, China, Europe, who wanted to be my partners. Suddenly, the idea that had generated virtually no interest for a year was a global sensation. I had become an accidental social media technology celebrity. On Wednesday, I got called by a fruit company from Cupertino, California, and they said, Dr. Albert, would you meet with us? And over 3 meetings over 24 hours, I met with them. They were supportive. The FDA called me and said, Dr. Albert, what are you doing? I know I'm not supposed to be doing anything, but this was an accident. The good news is they laughed. Venture capitalists, stockbrokers, private investors flooded me with requests to fund my company. I was in a whirlwind. Good news is I'm an Okie. I know when to duck. So then I returned to Oklahoma City, and I was met with YouTube haters. It's fake, it doesn't work, the ECG's too clean, you can't do that with an iPhone, et cetera, et cetera. 2 things. One was a Czech Republic blogger, we translated it, and in my mind I can read the great line. iPhone ECG, fake as bitch, just like Borat, I hear it. And so I show it to them, and then I hear Borat go, very nice. My 11-year-old walks up and says, Dad gives me a hug. He never gives me a hug. He's not a touchy-feely. He says, Dad, you've made it. Why do I know I've made it? Because you know you've made it when you have YouTube haters. So why did my global idea pandemic occur? The technology, the ease of use, the TV media coverage that was spread by syndication, the timing of right before CES when the world's attention is focused on new gadgets and Las Vegas. Then there were the nodes of the global social network. That Friday morning on the 31st, MedGadget, a blog, picked it up, passed it to Engadget, Engadget to Tuwa. They'd have millions of readers and millions of followers, then spread the one-to-many dissemination of my idea. Everything contributed. Media, timing, technology, mega nodes. The social network did its thing. The convergence of all those factors turned my little video into a sensation. Social media experts came up and said, who produced your video? Who did your marketing? I said, I did it. They said, you did everything right. I said, okay, act like I don't know anything about social media marketing and tell me all the things I did right. Let me get some paper here, okay? So within hours of hitting upload, I had a pandemic. The experts told me I did it right. You've had millions of exposures, millions of impressions. Every day today, social media epidemics occur. Ashton Kutcher's latest tweet to the baby laughing about his dad tearing up rejection letters. We are all connected in that social web. Those people are very deliberate, and very savvy as they start and grow their epidemics. I am here to tell you that I'm an example of how it can happen as an accident. It doesn't have to be an accident, but it can happen. What my accident demonstrates is the power of an idea that is infective from an office in Oklahoma City can overnight become a global pandemic at the speed of light. It all started with an idea, and they liked it. Thank you very much.